often cited, isn't it, that the British monarchy are cold and uncaring, that sort of thing, simply because they have to keep a level of decorum. And in particular in public, when the rest of us maybe are failing around full of tears, it was always really heartwarming and incredibly inspiring to find the monarch steadfastly refusing to get caught up in the emotion of the moment. Some people might say that's a trait that doesn't really actually matter anymore in the 21st century. I disagree. I sort of think, that actually it's good to have stoic people. Now, a lot of people, of course, paint the late and beautiful Princess Diana in that particular way. It's almost a Marilyn Monroe-esque figure, isn't it, of somebody covered in tragedy, always crying over illicit affairs that have gone wrong, that type of stuff. But there was another side to Diana, and a very passionate side that was introduced to her by none other than the late and wonderful, the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth. You see, Queen Elizabeth really got through things by giggling. She was a terrible sort of giggling type of person, and she basically said, this is the way forward, if you can have a laugh a day at anything, it just breaks up the tension. It's something that she decided to pass through to Diana as her troubles escalated. And not many people know this secret. Let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you in the very heart of London today. Yes, another beautiful red post box. I love them, as you know. And I just wish they kept them more clean. Yeah, you know what I mean? In the old days, there was a sense of pride of things like that, wasn't there? Cleaners coming round every so often, polishing them, that sort of stuff. Now everything's left to be neglected. A little bit, well, I know it's like you and me, isn't it? Who's looking after us? Are you looking after yourself? Are you? Well, I know there was a bit of a kerfuffle when I mentioned I was going off the jammy Dodgers because it got thinner. I could sense, oh, sorry, we're not having a wave, are we? Morning anyway. Nice to see you. Let's get back to your royal story of the day. Now, what's interesting about this, I felt, was that, as I said, I'd met Diana on a number of occasions, and I always found her to be very warm, very kind, very sweet lady, but a lot of the time she was acting. It was a mask. Clearly, she seemed to be quite upset by many different things. But what was interesting, I found, was, and I later had this confirmed by a very well-placed source who knew them both well. You see, the Queen Mother obviously could and totally understood the problems that Diana was going through on a personal level, and like so many people, tried to reach out and assist. But at first she couldn't get through, and she basically said, look, the way forward, Diana, is to try and sort of find some fun in the day every single day. Now, as we all know, the Queen Mother had some fabulous assistants around her, including backstairs Billy, who was always known to be able to make the Queen Mother giggle at absolutely anything. But actually, it was this man, that's right, Noel Coward, that really, as the Queen Mother said, got her through the war. They became incredibly close friends. She loved his sort of acerbic wit, his put-downs, and, the fact that he could see things in life. Or as she pointed out, she knew that Noel was going through his own demons, but she never sort of saw them because he was too busy trying to be fun, trying to be upbeat. And she said, look, how do you do that? And he said, it's the only way through life. Now, many years later, basically the Queen Mother decided to introduce Noel Coward to Princess Diana. And what was interesting was at first Diana had heard of him but didn't know of him, and she gave her a book. And what was interesting, she said the book was like all the wit and wisdoms, all the cutting put downs about celebrities he'd encountered and all that sort of stuff. And apparently she could hear Diana giggling away, and that really tickled her funny bone. So, without further than that, she suggested to Diana, well, why don't you go and see some of the, the productions of his plays? I think you'll enjoy them. She introduced her to things like Brief Encounter with Celia Johnson, amongst other things. And it was at this particular event that I was lucky enough to have a chat about Noel Coward with Diana. And she basically reiterated the story. And it was a performance of Private Lives at the Aldwych Theatre in the very heart of London in the early 90s. And this was really a production that was going to show Dame Joan Collins off as a serious actress. Now, between you and I've always thought Jones played a sort of higher version of herself. I'll leave it there, you know what I'm saying? But what's interesting is this, is that, obviously people, as I said at the start of the video, paint people out to be dark. And, I think the Queen Mother, bless her, did her very best because, as she pointed out, she'd gone through some very dark times with her husband, the King George, and had taken on a mantle that she didn't necessarily think was going to be hers. But she got through it with wit, wisdom, and surrounding herself with a lot of laughter. As she pointed out, sometimes you can just read something from Noel and literally be giggling about it 5 hours later. Something that Diana wholly took to her own heart. It's lovely to share these more positive stories, I think you'll agree. If you can, please do like and share. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.